Book of Hours has been there for you during the most challenging times of our lives. As an artist collaboration, we've given shape and depth to some of the most complicated topics of our time, making them easily accessible for those who seek to understand. We've given voice and space to the stories that often go ignored. Please take a moment to consider being a patron, make a donation, or join Rokfin. Thank you.
Lonely spire crawling on the floor. Lonely spire longing for love once more.
Well, hello.
Hello, guys.
Hi. We're back for another bookmark.
How's everybody doing?
I hope everyone's fine. We'll check the chats in just a moment and see where you are. But in the meantime, it is hard to believe that it is getting close to the end of September.
I know, right?
You know, and
I know. I'm not being rude. I'm just doing some technical things on the back end because we don't have a secretary.
We don't have a secretary or a production assistant. We don't have somebody behind the scenes like all the other people that you might watch. Although there's some people out there that don't have assistants.
Yeah, that's true.
Hervoge, for
who
one.
we just listened to, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Geopolitics and Empire for getting some pretty interesting guests lately.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna make an adjustment there.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. We're so today we've got kind of a special show for you. We are still green.
Yeah.
Green?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Let us know if you guys can hear us.
Yeah, let us know if you can hear us or not.
Yeah.
So we don't have a special guest, but we have a special segment.
Right. It's a special segment.
And somebody reached out to us and said, I've been trying to contact other people about this, and nobody seems to be interested, but I feel like it's something that's kind of important. And so she left us a series of recordings, audio recordings, on Facebook Messenger.
It was very deep throat, wasn't it? It was really cool.
And
I was like, "Ooh, I'm a spy."
Yeah, well,
really
and the
neat.
thing is with Messenger is it only gives you, like 1 minute at a time. So we had to piece them together. And we're so later in the show we're gonna play that, and we'll probably make some comments in between. But to start things out, this morning we had an audio recording and we were kind of talking about things and stuff as we usually do. Or was it this morning? No, it was last night. It was last night. We had
a little bit to drink and, we were getting a little surly.
Yeah. And that happens, especially when we talk about things and stuff.
So I'm trying to figure out how to log, Twitter's all different now.
Twitter got all twittery.
Yeah. So anyway, continue. Okay. Sorry about this.
All right. No, that's cool. Periscope changed its thing, and so it no longer allows us to share to Twitter or live stream to Twitter like we used to. So that's a drag.
I think there's other options, and we just have to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might be able to stream to Telegram once we can figure that one out. But anyway, so once
we have a Telegram account, got to get an account first before we can stream to it.
I know. Well, we tried, but it's So yesterday, I guess it was in the morning before anything really got going. I said something to Julie. I said, we moved from a city where people do things on their own to a city where basically a place where people do what they're told.
Right. So we moved to a city where people do things on their own.
From a city.
We moved from a city where people do things on their own independently. And then we moved to an area of a city where people are told what to do. They don't do anything until they're told what to do.
Well, I think that most of Pittsburgh is like that.
That's true. There's one or two people that we know and we've met, one of which we've actually featured on our show.
Yeah.
Shout out to her.
Yeah.
But who, they're pretty independent and, a few people here and there that we've met. But for the most part, as a whole, the general population of Pittsburgh is very much like, we're not going to do anything until we're told what to do.
Well, and we've talked about this before, where you see people walking down the street and they're kind of hunched over and they've been just basically flattened by the system.
Yeah, it's really sad.
And they don't have a lot of idea of what's going on out in the world, and they rely on their own superstitions, their own internal ideas, magical thinking to some degree. And so then when people will ask me things, like literally I'll have a conversation with someone and they will ask me something and I tell them an answer, and about halfway through the answer, and it's usually not that involved because I try to keep things short, halfway through the answer they kind of go, oh, like this kind of Homer Simpson thing.
The drool comes out of
yeah.
What was that?
I don't know.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, well, it started storming outside, so our little kitty might want in.
She's
but
throwing herself at the back door. Let me in! Throws herself. She used to do that. Remember when she would do that? She would fling her little body to the back door. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much how we adopted her.
Yeah, she clung.
She basically hung like this on our back screen and started yowling until we adopted her.
Right, because it was cold outside.
We didn't really want another pet.
No, we didn't.
So.
Yeah, she's probably fine on the porch though right now. Well, we're broadcasting.
She'll be fine. She'll drown out there.
Yeah. Speaking of drowning, I want to share.
Right. Perfect segue.
Right. Speaking of drowning, we got this going here.
Okay, so you guys know this meme, right? You've seen this GIF, right? I'm sure you have. Every election, every time something happens, it's like, so tell me more about America, and then this GIF will come up, or this meme will come up. It's a fucking dumpster fire.
Okay, so when it starts over, I'll show you something. So on the left-hand side, you'll see South 51, McNeely Road detour. Now you'll see parking for red, white, and blue thrift store. This is literally
like in our neighborhood.
This is more or less like near the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. And this is the Highway 51 is like just over the ridge from where we are, like maybe less than a mile away. So this is this is really close to home, and this actually
like our claim to fame.
Right, this dumpster actually, this company is in Pittsburgh, right?
What happened down there?
Nothing. So
this GIF is actually very local to us.
Very telling, yeah.
Like, wait a minute, we recognize that blight. We recognize that flooding, that dumpster fire. That looks like home. It's not really home.
It feels,
we just live here.
It sure does feel like home, but no, we just live here, right? Exactly. But the fire has been superimposed. It's a graphic video thing.
Yeah.
Because that smoke is not real.
Right. The smoke is not real.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's pretty funny. I saw that the other day and I was like, hey, that looks like
hey, wait a minute.
That looks like a couple things I recognize. Wait a minute. So the people around here are in fact dumpster fires sometimes. I
thought I was the mean one.
Right?
So mean today.
They are a hot mess. They are a hot mess. Oh,
all the little peasants are a hot mess. No.
So we understand that the circumstances around here are pretty grim sometimes, and
well, when you've been beaten down and told,
right,
for generations that you're not allowed to do anything or think anything or be anything, and you've had everything that you've ever worked for taken away from you time and time again, and pretty soon you get to a point where you're just like, hurt me more, please.
Yeah.
And you just beg to be told what to do.
If it's not the local politicians, it's it was the factory, or if it wasn't NAFTA that took away your job, it was the factory and the factory owner or the boss, manager or whatever.
Yeah.
So, or your union telling you basically what to do, or the mob basically telling you what to do. So, it's not surprising. But the thing that's weird is that they will then turn around and, blame, shame, or whatever,
right? They're always
other
punching
people,
down.
right? They're always punching down, and so something took place on the socials. Somebody posted something like, I think we talked about this last night. People are outside the grocery store and they're begging for change or begging for money and like up to $5, and I'm like,
Those lazy bastards.
Yeah, those lazy people. And so I answered and I said, look, there's some worldwide, there's a worldwide
we're in a
depression going on. And
it's not their fault.
Yeah. And
they
they're
don't
like,
believe it.
They're like, the irony is that, that there was a help wanted sign in the very grocery store that they were begging in front of. And I basically posted, I said, just because the store puts up a sign saying that they're hiring doesn't mean that they're hiring, especially at that location.
Yeah, everybody who's ever gone on an interview immediately gets hired.
Well, that's what I said too. It's like, just because you applied for a job doesn't mean you're going to get it. Whereas, these folks around here are still living in that illusion or that
I don't know. Yeah, they're
place.
living in a weird 1940s Leave It to Beaver episode. I don't know.
Well, even in the 70s, it's like, you could basically go apply for a job and you'd get it, right? Especially the grocery store, right? But that's not the world we live in anymore.
That
and I
is
said,
not the world we live
there
in.
are many, many roadblocks that get thrown up when you try to apply for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of security. And they're not looking for drugs anymore. They're looking for behavior. They're looking for whether you can prove that you worked at those other places that you said you worked at. They're looking for, like asking you to verify your identity with them through, asking a family member or a friend in a lot of cases.
To log in and fill out a complicated series of questions and download an app to prove that, you are a human being and that you are who you are. And so it's no more just, answer yes or no here on this piece of paper, and we'll either take your word for it or we will hire, a separate company that will investigate your background. They want you to investigate yourself. I mean, even for like minimum wage jobs, even for just packing and assembling at the Amazon warehouse, like you have to pass like really strict criteria that is beyond just like, oh, can you vouch for me? They might call you. And then of course you never get the call. And because nobody ever really does, it's much more complicated than that. They don't need to make a phone call.
Well, a friend of ours, a local friend of ours, was telling us, when she had applied for a job at McDonald's.
It was kind of the same.
It was the same thing. She was like
they
were like, there was a huge security thing that they were trying to, and so, it's
not what it is.
And then on top of it, there's other things that factors. It's like, even if you get the job, you're probably going to get short shifts. You're not going to get like a full-time job. And so that you're going to have to make that up with another job, and then trying to figure out how to get those two schedules working. So
around here, the general consensus in the area that we've moved to of the United States, the general consensus is there's something wrong with you if you don't have 2 or 3 jobs.
Right.
And our general consensus, being who we are, is that there's something wrong with a society that makes it so that you have to work 2 or 3 jobs in order to survive.
A society that makes it so that you have to justify your existence through saying that you're working.
Right.
Okay. That you have a job.
Oops, sorry.
Right.
Hey, Josephine.
Oh yeah. Let me bring up the chat.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting JP.
Okay.
You want to bring up the chat?
I brought it up, but I don't see it.
Well, she's on my page, so who knows? But one thing, finish your point, and then I want to talk about something that Josephine brought up to us recently.
So
that I want to address.
Okay. So, it's weird these days that people act as if, you have to have a job in order to be a valid person. So you're working just to work is fine and dandy. And I really have a problem with that. I mean, it's one thing to say, well, I need to feed my family and I need to, but if you have, a situation where you don't necessarily have to work, you are seen, or you are in a situation where you can't work, you are seen as being lazy or sucking on the system or doing something, dragging down the society by existing. And it's just a very strange thing. And what we're finding is that this is going to be the means for the future, that those of us the people are not going to be seen as citizens unless they're considered workers. And I believe that that's why people they stop getting counted in the unemployed ranks if they have stopped looking for work, or if they've been unemployed for longer than 6 months to a year.
Right.
They fall off the system, and the government no longer counts them as being unemployed. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, I believe, is because this is the mode that we're going to be going into in the future, where you will not have as many rights as other people if you are not working.
That's right. We know somebody who has been hired into the corporate sector, and a little inside scoop here. They have a private medical facility
at the main headquarters.
At the headquarters. So the company is based in Chicago, and so all of the workers have access to like a private hospital.
Yeah, or like a clinic,
like a private clinic.
Yeah, and a pharmacy.
So think about that. What does that tell you about what's happening to our legacy systems, our legacy hospital infrastructures, our legacy pharmacies, our legacy, the way that we practice allopathic medicine and have known our whole lives? It's only going to be, the good stuff is only going to be relegated to people in the corporate sector, in my opinion.
Or people who are workers. And if you watch if you've watched our video Globotics, which
we should probably release to the public.
It's been in semi-public release for a while, but if you've seen it, we talk about how in the future everybody's going to be on a digital service platform, right. Whether you're a plumber or a house cleaner or whatever. It's like, so a digital service platform could be anything from Uber to TaskRabbit to as a placement agency can take that place in the future, right?
So by the way, can you guys hear us okay? We're using kind of a new mic. I want to make sure you guys can hear us okay, because I'm not like right on the microphone. So
it might go red if you get too close.
I know. Let us know. Yeah. So that's something to think about as we lose our legacy systems in the United States. That the professional class will still have access to, clinics and care, where the non-professional class might have a bit of a harder time getting, the quality care that they're used to getting. So one thing that, I wanted to bring up, great. Thank you, Jana, can hear you better with your new mics. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
But I would say that it is a great reset of the microphone.
What was I going to say? Oh, right. So Josephine brought something up to us a while ago. She may not even remember, but she said, she liked the way that we kind of put things together with symbolism and semiotics. And I think that, if you stick with us towards the end of this podcast, we're going to be playing an audio of someone who reached out to us and told us some inside information on what's happening in the corporate world, specifically the insurance industry. And this person had been trying to get, attention from other people, and, was having a hard time. So she just left us a bunch of messages. It was really,
she blew up our messenger.
It felt really cool. It felt like, we were part of something really, like we were spies or something.
Yeah.
Like blowing the whistle. Like we have our own whistleblower now, I guess. Yeah. Ooh.
I'm just going to check something here. Yeah, it looks like we are. Okay, cool.
Okay. So, so that wraps up kind of the first segment
I guess
of this.
So, yeah.
We left San Francisco in 2018 and we moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in August of 2018. And we noticed right away, even before COVID, that we're dealing with sort of an infantilized, a type of personality overall in Pittsburgh. Not every single person is like this, but, definitely a very infantilized community here that is waiting to be told what to do. Whereas in San Francisco, I mean, the moniker for San Francisco is the city that gets it done.
Yeah, the city that knows how.
Or the city that knows how.
Mm-hmm.
That basically means like we're going to do it.
Right.
And I thought there'd be a little more grit to Pittsburgh, considering that it's, mostly it was, working class and had the steel mills for all those years.
I think that the NAFTA and all the things that subsequently happened since then.
Just beaten them down over the years, just beaten down their will.
Mm-hmm.
And, so now in the age of COVID, you can really see it. It's really, really evident how quickly these tiny little, off clubs that, are barely holding on, capitulated so quickly to, to the vaccine passports and things like that. Places that we venues. And the last venue in the world that I would ever think in a million years that would have called for a vaccine passports did. I mean, this is a little hole in the wall. Usually the hole in the walls are the ones that Live Nation and the corporate sponsors that are calling for the vaccine passports, they overlook, the little venues. So there's little tiny venues. There's actually a little teeny little venue, like about a 30-second walk from our house that does like little comedy night and, some jazz every once in a while. And they're not doing it because they're not corporate run. They're literally run by a husband and wife, so they're not, they're not playing this,
right,
So
right. Well, let's see. We'll see. Let's hope.
So something tells me that it's these little off venues that are little mom and pops that suddenly you might find some of the most famous comedians out there playing these venues because a lot of famous people are coming out and saying, yeah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to play the venues that are requiring the vaccine passports. We're just not going to do it.
Before you continue, let me share your blog post, which
sure.
is what this is all about, right?
That's a nice segue.
Okay. Yeah. So Julie wrote a blog post pretty recently. I think it was early this morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very short. It's called The Last Show.
There it is. Okay. All right. So
it's really short. It's called The Last Show. It's the last concert that I went to. And there's my ticket. It's from February 9th of 2020. So 3 weeks before the national emergency was declared. And so, it was basically like I talked about my night. Exile Follies is a combination of John Doe, Kristen Hirsch, and Grant Lee Phillips. And they are singers and performers for other bands. And they decided to collaborate and create this collaboration called Exile Follies. This is actually maybe the second or third time I'd actually seen them. They started Exile Follies probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, maybe. What are we, 2021 now? So maybe like 2005 or something. And I remember having, a conversation with Grant Lee Phillips back then at the Hideout in Chicago. And my friend who I believe he went with me to that show. Anyway, the point is, maybe it was John Doe I had the conversation with. Anyway, the point is that I also had conversations with them on February 9th of 2020, both John Doe and Grant Lee Phillips, and they were nice, and it was great. John is from California. He's the front singer for the iconic punk rock band X,
bassist and singer
out of Los Angeles. Spent some time in San Francisco, and we were talking. I was like, well, I just left San Francisco and moved to Pittsburgh, and he was like, oh wow, it's a shame that San Francisco has become so unfriendly towards artists. Such a difficult place for artists to live now. It's too expensive. Everyone's just kind of had to scatter to the winds. I mean, even bands that are from San Francisco can't afford to live in San Francisco anymore. They have to like move to LA or Austin, Texas, or Portland or whatever.
I'm always surprised to hear that there's a new band that comes out of San Francisco.
Right, exactly. So that was a really good conversation. And then I had a really intimate conversation with Grant Lee Phillips. Super nice. We talked about, his work. He's been on Gilmore Girls. He played the troubadour on Gilmore Girls, if you guys are familiar with that.
I remember that.
With that show. Yeah. I mean, it was a super nice conversation. Really, really respectful, really friendly guy. Unfortunately, a month later, or a year later, actually, as you'll see from these tweet shots that I took, he was saying, that he was trying to get the vaccine. This is a whole year after we had that, really great intimate conversation. And I was like, oh, wow, we had a brief conversation just before lockdown, and I'm really sad to see, that you're capitulating to this. And well, good luck with the poke, and there's no excuse not to know what it really is. Too many sources at our fingertips to give intel into what this is about. And, my friend William jumped in and he's like, yeah, I don't get it. Why don't people know that this is really not a vaccine? And at this point I was like, well, and remember, this is March of this year, March of 2021. So it'd been a whole year since I had that conversation with Grant Phillips. And, that really nice conversation after he performed. And I said, I think people would saw their own arm off, just to be able to get back to life again. And, a couple more things were said. And then Grant comes back and yells at my friend William, and was like, yoga must come easy when your head is up your ass, William. And he's like, whoa, I was speaking to Julie. What are you doing? And then at which point Grant then comes back to me and he attacks me. He calls me an ass. Okay, the nicest guy in the world who I had a conversation with like a year prior. He was so nice. He was so respectful. It was so great to talk music with him and performances and, just the way music is going. He was so nice. And look at this nasty response he gives me. And so I just, took the upper hand, and I was like, well, I actually wasn't being an ass. I really don't. An ass. I don't think that you'll pass anything along to your family at all, meaning, COVID. Meaning that I think that you're safe from the virus, but I know that you'll feel better after you get the vaccine, and then you'll get back to performing. Well, this was on March 30th of 2021. And just a few months later, they started talking about, 6 months later or so, back in July, right?
Mm-hmm.
So March, April, May, June, July. So 3 months later or so, they started talking about the vaccine passports. When I wrote this, I did not think for 1 minute that we were going to be segregating and bifurcating society the way we are now, and using performers like Grant Lee Phillips and John Doe and Kristen Hirsch and various other performers out there that we liked for all these years. I did not think for 1 minute that they would be bifurcating and segregating society using these performers to do so. So anyway, because JP and I are who we are, we decided to, you can scroll more, we decided to create a video essay, which you may or may not have seen, called Concert Reset. And it talks about why this is really happening. And of course, it's all about financialization. It's all about making money off of your experiences. So that's that blog piece if you want to go take a look at it. Our blog is book-of-hours.com, and then you show them what the main site looks like.
Okay.
So this is when you go to book-of-hours.com, this is the website, and then up in the upper right hand corner, you'll find blog of ours, work of ours, about and how to support us and all that stuff.
Right. So there's the blog of ours.
And there's the blog.
Yeah.
So I just, I wanted to just bring that up really quickly. It was kind of weird to stumble across that ticket stub. Actually, JP had found it. I found it stacked up on your nightstand or something. I was like, oh my God, where did you get that ticket? I didn't even realize that I had a ticket. I thought it was just an online thing.
Yeah.
But,
I had the last few tickets sitting around. I used to archive our tickets because we'd go to so many shows.
I know.
I would keep them in envelopes for each year, and then we could review our shows, going back.
So I'm the kind of person, I've been going to shows for 30 years, as it states in the blog piece. If you go back and read it, I've been going to shows for 30 years. And I would say once or twice a week, I would go to a show for the last 30 years. I would go to a show. I don't like that. That's worse.
No, that's better.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I would go to a show at least once a week, over the last 30 years of my life, a concert. And it's very rare, only if there was other things going on or something else that I wouldn't go to a show, and when I met him, it was he was like, wow, you really like to go to a lot of concerts. I was like, yeah, I really love live music. I like the live music experience. I mean, there is something to be said about, putting on an old record or putting on even a live recording of something, but I need live music. And I haven't been to a live show since February 9th of 2020. Like, I have not seen one live band. And, you know, if there is a band playing and they're playing at a venue that doesn't require a vaccine passport, it would take, I mean, I have to like them.
Well,
you know,
there's
I
that
want to
too.
spend the money to
I
go
know.
see something that I'm like, I really don't like this music.
Yeah.
You know, so.
My last show was December of 2019.
It was Silver Sun Pickups.
Silver Sun Pickups, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, and that was a great show, and we'd seen them before, and we'd seen Andrew Bird the time before that. So anyway, yeah. So she found the stack of tickets. I had cleaned out my cabinet, and I was going to try to archive them, which I haven't done yet. But anyway, she found that ticket and was like, "Oh, I forgot I had this, or that it was around." So you know, I'm glad I kept it, because it generated some thoughts and memories, and like, especially in lieu of what's going on in the context of everything. You know, she pumped out a little blog post that was pretty awesome. I loved how you included the interaction with your friend and with Grant Lee Phillips.
Right, the Twitter interaction with him. I you know, and the thing is, you know, I've had, like, I know we weren't really going to go here, but I feel led to, so I may as well. It makes for interesting conversation. I've had, you know, lots of live interaction, like actual, like face-to-face interaction with performers. I was at the Pitchfork Music Festival years ago, and I was looking, you know, they have areas that are surrounding, like, where the stages are. You know, when you're at a music festival, the stages are like in the grass, and then they have a dedicated area where you can buy swag, or you can buy records, or you can buy, you know, junk that local people make, like Etsy crap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they have crafts, you know, that kind of stuff. So they have a record area. So I was like,
oh yeah. At like, Pitchfork, they had that big tent where they sell the records.
Right. Yeah. I was like going through the records. I was like, and the guy that's, you know, sit in front of me, sitting down, like the person who would sell the records, he looks behind me and he goes like that. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, I'm like looking through there. I finally turn around and it's Thurston Moore, and he's, you know, he was Sonic Youth.
From Sonic Youth, yeah.
And he's like staring at me. So I start talking to him. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, hey, how's it going?
She has the best concert karma, I think, around, because she's talked to John Doe, like, at the bar or like, places. Yeah. You know,
he's like many times. I've talked to John Doe like a few times, you know, but and he signed one of my old t-shirts. Yeah. I don't know if I have it anymore, but yeah, but so, and I also met Bjork in like 1990. This is a really funny story. You guys are going to like this one. So this is when Bjork was with the Sugar Cubes, if you remember the Sugar Cubes, the band.
Way back in the 90s.
Right, way back in the 90s. I was like 20, 21, I think. 2021. I was living on the north side of Chicago. I had my own little dumpy studio apartment. And Bjork, anyway, I took the L, so it's the train, the elevated rail. I took that to the concert venue, and I happened to run across a guy who was holding an Icelandic flag. I was like, oh, well, clearly you're a fan of the band, and clearly you're going to see the Sugar Cubes because they're from Iceland. He's like, yep, I actually know the band. I'm like, yeah, right. You know, and he's like, no, I know, like, I used to be their nanny, or I used to know somebody who was their nanny or something. I don't know. So I went into the venue with him. Next thing you know, like after the show, and by the way, at the show itself, I think the lead guy's name for the Sugar Cubes is Lars. Anyway, Lars goes, if you don't stop with this, and he didn't know the word because he's Icelandic. It's the moshing where you carry and you slam into each other. Right. So all the Chicagoans were like slamming into each other and carrying each other across, you know, and throwing each other onto the ground and carrying body surfing. They were body surfing and stuff. And he's like, if you don't stop that, I'm going to stop the show. He threw a little fit, which I thought was kind of funny. And I'm like, oh, you don't know Chicagoans very well, do you? So they're like, oh, shut the fuck up and get back to singing. You know, that's like a Chicago response. So they, anyway, so he's like, so they finish out the show. I go backstage, and all of a sudden, like, so we're all hanging out, and, you know, backstage at this point in the early 1990s at this particular venue was like some old, like, torn up sofas, and like
the green room wasn't much.
It wasn't much, and like really like lowbrow, like whiskey and, like a can of Coke if you're lucky, right? So I'm standing there with my new friend who had the Icelandic flag, and he's speaking Iceland to like the roadies or members of the band, and I'm just like, ooh, this is interesting. Wow. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bjork, who's at the time really young because she was she was a singer for the Sugar Cubes, she tears out the back door and goes running down the street, like under the L tracks. And the roadies and various other like security people are just like,
what the fuck?
and I was like, are you guys going to go after her? This is Chicago. It's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. Are you going to let this little person run around by herself? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I go after her, and so I'm like, kind of running-ish after her. I'm 20, 21, a little bit younger, a little bit more fit than I am now. And I catch up with her, and I'm like, did you need something? And she's like, I don't want to give any autographs. 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 And I was like, you don't have to give any autographs. Who told you had to give an autograph? You don't have to do jack shit. And she's like, oh. So we go back to the backstage, back to the back of the venue, and there's all these like crazy hysterical 14-year-old girls. Bjork. And I'm like, she doesn't want to give your autograph tonight. And they're like, oh. And she's like, oh, cool. And she's just walks right back in, and everything was fine. Apparently, I think she thought that I wanted her autograph. I'm not like oh, please give me your autograph thing. Like right.
It was kind of a bad neighborhood from what you remember.
It's a bad neighborhood, yeah, at that point, and not anymore. But at the time, you definitely don't want to be like running around half naked from Iceland in Chicago. Like it's probably
it wasn't like she was going to freeze to death, but it was
It was freezing. No, it was freezing that night.
But she's from Iceland; she's used to that. But I think it was I think you were more concerned about her safety from the the local fauna.
Right. and it's funny how he just said that, because I have literally had like I think John Doe at one point when he did sign my shirt, he was like, we were rapping, we were talking, and he was like, so do you want my autograph? I was like, oh yeah, sure, I guess that'd be nice. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I need your autograph.
Yeah.
Like the performer is like, can I give you my autograph?
That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, well, thank you for the next this.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that story.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bookmark. We'll see you again next time.
No, we're not. I know, I just suck all the energy out of the room.
Well, the time. No, I like that story, and I'm
really
glad you told it. Yeah, that's good. I guess that brings us to our next segment, where we're going to play an audio.
Right. So put on, get comfortable, because this.
Oh, can I go get some coffee? No.
You really want some coffee?
No, I'm joking.
We have to brew it.
Yeah, I know. Well, we've got time. No,
we do like elevator music.
Would you? Yeah.
All right. Who lived in West Rogers Park till 94?
Dawn.
Wow.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Wow, Dawn. Oh my goodness. Hey, did you ever go to the Heartland Cafe? Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Well, let me bring up the this thing here. Let's get started with this, and then we can.
Well, let's kind of give it a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is somebody who reached out to us, who works in the corporate, or worked, does not work.
Not currently.
Worked in the corporate.
Quit this job.
Quit her job.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was an insurance company.
Do you want to show it? Let's show it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's show it.
Yeah, so let's see. Do I have the?
Yeah, right there.
I do. Okay.
Go to the. Yeah. Right there.
Okay.
Kingston Mines. I did. Oh my God, Dawn. I have a crazy story. Put me back on camera. Put me back up. I have a crazy story about Kingston Mines, Dawn. So, I was listening to the local radio. This was in the 90s. I was listening to the local radio station, and they said, "Hey, if you want to be in Morrissey's next video, Just go to Kingston Mines and go wear black.
Wear black.
And
Really?
wear black.
Wear black in a Morrissey
I know,
video?
right? In a Morrissey video, who'd have known? So anyway, I get there, and of course, there's a long line of black clad kids, that are all wearing black, and so typical Chicago, once again, driving down the road. Where's the funeral? Everybody's honking, and everyone's like, it's for a Morrissey video. Who?
Yeah.
So anyway, the video Glamorous Glue, apparently I'm in it, but everything is like the edits are all like all the edits of all the people that are in it have been cut out. It's kind of like this style where the faces are like you can't see the faces clearly, and you just see it's supposed to be like a dream, right? So there's no you don't really see anybody at all. What's the effect called when you blur out the background, but then
I don't know that I know we have probably an effect like that on our editing tool, but I don't know if I know that name.
But anyway, I should know it. But anyway, so that was kind of fun. That was interesting. And then it was like either that same night or like sometime later that Prince was playing for like practically for free at the Metro. Remember the Metro, Dawn? I don't know if you know that place.
Speaking of Prince, I almost got run over by his SUV driver when I was in the bike lane riding down Folsom Street.
Right. This was like
or not Folsom.
Before he died.
Yeah.
Too,
It was going down. Was it Folsom? No, it was 11th Street. Anyway, in San Francisco. Okay, so
let's go back to the back to FM Global. So this is the organization that the young lady worked for, and it is a very interesting story. This is all stuff that she, what you're about ready to hear is basically just her own account working there and what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you guys will really enjoy listening to this, and just pay attention. You may, if you're working in a corporate environment, this may actually, you might start to realize that there's things going on in the corporate world.
So this is going to be more like an audio, a podcast, but let's listen.
Yeah.
I was curious if Project Veritas, months and months ago, I was curious if they'd be interested in investigating my former employer, which I left because I came to the conclusion that they're probably the fascist hidden hand that links corporations and government. No joke. Yeah, my former employer is called FM, as in Factory Mutual Global. And they're an insurance and risk management company. I was working for them for about 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I just came to the conclusion, aside from the toxic corporate culture, that I felt like I was somehow actually working for the government. I didn't have access to everything at the company because, much like the military is structured in the financial services industry and insurance and stuff, they have different clearance levels. Different people have different access to the various client accounts that we have, and of course, the higher up you are, the more access you have. And I was in a supportive role, supporting a team of engineers, and we have huge name clients. The company has what I think are basically all the biggest name companies and organizations that you can imagine around the world, such as Micron, Facebook, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Microsoft, Boeing, different cities, municipalities, school districts, public utilities, mines, I forget the name of it right now, but anyway, I remember learning from them that they are the industry leader, or they like to boast that they're always the industry leader. It's the only insurance and risk management company I've ever heard of that employs all different kinds of engineers. And I came to the conclusion that they are doing social engineering for the government via all of these corporations, all of these organizations and corporations and government contractors and such that are their supposed clients. Because FM Global gets to make recommendations, quote, recommendations to these different organizations, and the tagline for FM Global, their motto is, resilience is a choice. That's interesting, right? Especially in light of everything going on lately in our society and in our world with trying to mandate vaccines and all this other BS that we know is not backed by any valid science. And FM was instrumental in implementing pandemic preparedness plans for all these organizations. So the very last meeting that I went to, and keep in mind, the boss of the engineers that I supported, I was an account engineering assistant, and their boss of all these engineers, his name's Joe, and he acted very weird. He had this rigid, slow, calculated way of moving that just gave me a total military vibe. And I think I came to confirm later he was in the service at one point, but I question. I think FM Global is like an extension of the government or military. It's pretty weird. So the very last meeting was a team meeting that I went to with Joe and the team of like 6 engineers that I support. And I remember asking towards the end of the meeting, so why aren't we doing, if we're the industry leader, if everything that we do, the rest of the players in the industry usually end up following suit, and we get to make recommendations to all these big name, organizations around the world, so we're in charge. So why don't we do what countries like Romania and a lot of places in the UK and in Mexico, whatnot, are doing? Why don't we just recommend opening back up? They seem to be fine. What about Florida? What about Texas? They seem to be fine. And he goes, there will be no revolutionary talk on this channel. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, I feel I should mention, keep in mind, I did not sign up to work for the government. In no way, shape, or form was I aware that, when I signed up to be employed by them, that it was going to be like that. I went through a staffing agency, and they recommended that position for me, which actually started as a different position. It was called Client Processing Associate, and then I was selected when they created the new role of Account Engineering Assistant. It just never made any sense to me. I mean, I was processing numbers in the beginning of my employment for this company. I was processing our big name clients' statements of values. And so I looked at a lot of numbers, a lot of data, billions worth of dollars and assets and shit. And I was able to also analyze what was going on during this whole pandemic bullshit. So it didn't make any sense to me why FM was not taking a more reasonable, data-driven approach to pandemic preparedness plans and what we were recommending to all of our clients and stuff. It didn't make sense that I could figure out all the BS and the company didn't. I was like, okay, so I'm in a support role and I'm supporting all the engineers that are basically doing all the, supposedly heavy lifting for this organization of, keeping this insurance and risk management company running well, and our clients, keeping them resilient and keeping them running well. But how was I able to see that things were going terribly wrong with all the lockdown measures and all the pandemic response stuff, and the company wasn't able to see through that, and our office remained closed, and we had to make a special appointment to go in and get our stuff. Like, we don't even know if we're ever going to reopen the office. It was just, what the hell, dude?
So, I want to interject in here.
Sure.
So far she's talked about, kind of some classic corporate shit. She's gonna get into the chaos that ensued when they did shut down.
Right.
It sounds like a lot of people were taken by surprise, even though I think the company was expecting it.
Right.
But in the post, going home and working from home, these conversations she was talking about, like there won't be any revolution on this channel, was
revolutionary talk.
They were on Zoom.
They were on Zoom. So it's important to notice that, for you to understand that she's having this meeting on Zoom with her colleagues, and they are discussing pandemic preparedness. Back early on in this thing. In 2020, I did something called Let's Tutorial, and I showed in Let's Tutorial how FEMA and businesses were working together, and how the military and the businesses were working together. And so this is a really good example of how the corporate sector has brought in, military consultants to direct how corporations are going to reopen or not in the United States. So this is something that was like, we all just kind of knew that it was happening, but she has firsthand experience. And then, of course, I was able to connect the dots pretty easily when I went to the Department of Defense's website back in 2020. If you want to go back and watch Let's Tutorial, that might be a good refresher. It connects with the strategic intelligence platform on the grand marketing site that is the World Economic Forum, which is nothing more than a marketing website. They don't have any power. They're the idea men behind what's happening.
Did you know that I am the highest paid advertising exec in the world?
You don't look like Don Draper.
Well, I feel like him. How about a martini, young lady? Okay.
Anyway, so what she's saying, really, it really jives with how I understand how the corporate world works, because we both are out of that.
Yeah.
Out of that, right? So we both get it. And so especially like some of the things that you're about ready to hear, which get really kind of wonky.
So she gets into some areas that talk specifically about what we all experience in the corporate world, and the nastiness that goes on, but then some specifics about the COVID thing that happened to everybody. So we'll get into this again. Excuse me, let me bring that up and play.
Also, one of my coworkers, Sherry Meng, Sherry, S-H-E-R-R-Y, Meng, M-E-N-G, she had told me, I believe she was getting sick around September or October of 2019. She was really sick. She was in and out of the office a couple times. And she had previously told me her dad is a Chinese scientist who travels back and forth between the U.S. and China. I don't know where specifically in China he worked, but I remember her telling me that. And I remember her being like the first one in our office to get really sick in 2019. And then the next couple months, November and December 2019, more people in the office were getting sick with what seemed like a bad flu, and staying out for about a week or so and then coming back. I also got it early December 2019. I felt like I had a bad flu I stayed home for a week and just rested a lot. And I had my roommate get me groceries, and I was vegan at the time, so I think my immune system and my body was pretty good. I don't know. I was able to overcome it fairly well. I took vitamins, vitamin C and D, and I think magnesium. Yeah, but I remember Sherry telling us a weird story one time at lunch about receiving a whole bunch of cash from her grandmother, her Chinese grandmother, and she was like, "Whoa, what the hell, Grandma? Like, where'd you get this?" You know, and it being kind of sketchy or sus, like what the source was of all of that cash. And I'm just like, wow, what are Sherry's family connections? Just right down to the littlest details, it seems. And it's just, it's wild to me. I don't feel like I have any solid, concrete proof that I can show anybody. It's just my observations. And, the response from the engineering manager when I was like, why don't we just recommend that everybody reopen since it's, obviously been fine in a lot of places? Like, his response just really confirmed and validated for me intuitively what I felt I knew. When he said there will be no revolutionary talk on this channel. I mean, what more do you need to hear? Oh, and basically, since I started working at that company, they were trying to doing a huge push for cyber coverage, trying to get all of their clients protected from cyber attacks, and, quote, predicting that would be a big thing.
Okay, there we go.
This business of talking about. So remember, she works for FM Global, which is worked for FM Global, which is a big insurance, the insurance company. I'd like to remind you that again, this was the insurance company that was the go-to for pandemic preparedness. Like, you could not open up again. No office in the country could open up again until they had the go-ahead from FM Global, basically. Okay, they were the go-to. They would set the criteria for how to reopen your offices again or your businesses again. So all of a sudden, they want to introduce a new policy concept called cyber coverage, where just in case there's a cyber attack or just in case there's some kind of cyber interruption, that companies would have insurance to protect against that. This is a grift. This is what insurance companies are all about. It's a grift, and that's basically what she's saying. And so, rather than get into the fear-mongering language of, oh my God, this means that we're going to have another cyber attack, and all of these corporations that need to make sure that they're, cyber safe are, going to suddenly pick up this insurance. Let me tell you my feelings about this. There is, most of your corporate workers are working from home now. Most of them who are, doing this all day, coding your future, coding in fascism, they're working from home. They're working remotely. Your internet connection and your cyber connection is not going to fail. These corporations need their workers to have access to the internet. So this really scary fear-mongery talk that, oh my God, the internet's gonna go down and we're not gonna be able to talk to each other. I don't think that's really going to happen. Well, because too many people are working remote now.
Right. And I think that ties into what we were talking about earlier today, where, if you are a worker, you're considered a valid person. And so I
Right.
think that people who are workers and they're working online, they're the ones that will have the access to the internet.
Right.
And those of you who, sorry, you don't have a job. Wah, wah.
Right. And FM Global.
You're going to lose your internet. I don't know. I'm just,
Right.
speculating.
But FM Global is going to go to various corporations that are doing, like say they go to like Google, like say all of the Google employees, most of the Google employees in the world are no longer working off of the Google campus. They're now like sitting at home coding, right? So FM Global will go to Google and say, it'd be a shame if something happened to your internet. You better insure yourself. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So they're going to create, they're going to financialize this potential need, which isn't really a need. Our internet is not at risk of going down. Our cyber is not at risk of being attacked, but they need to financialize it.
Well, I think
somehow.
also, they're losing revenue through these buildings not being occupied anymore.
Right.
Now they'll have to insure them while, they're still, operating so-called out of these buildings.
And Frida,
But-
you totally read my mind. In fact, you're a prophet because you're psychic, because our whistleblower goes into this. She says exactly that. She may have even already said it, but I don't think she said it yet. But she does go into exactly that, where she talks about that this is exactly like what happened in 9/11
Mhm.
with 9/11. So let's continue
Yeah.
because it's got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Which obviously, we've seen that come to fruition.
Does that remind anybody of 9/11? Because kind of reminds me of 9/11 and the insurance industry's role in that. I'm just saying. But yeah, cyber attacks, cyber coverage. Oh, and the whole company was pushing for more and more use of things like Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, and trying to get everybody to collaborate electronically more and more, so that apparently we would be able to keep running operations from anywhere remotely, in the event of, say, a pandemic or a plandemic, or any type of disaster where we weren't able to make it into the office for whatever reason. So they just told us one day, oh, well, I guess everyone's at work now. Well, we're just going to leave because apparently there's a pandemic going on. So let's all act kind of stressed out and hurry up and try to grab as much crap as we need to go home and continue working from home. Oh boy. Well, this is neat. So it's just like, yeah. I just found the whole thing odd right from the start.
And, I wanted to say that, when I was driving the school bus that first day, that Friday, that 13th, the Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, when the national emergency was
Right.
declared.
I picked up the kids. They were freaked out.
Declared. Yeah.
And
Yeah, they were.
They, like the one kid had all his books, and he knew
He's scared.
that he wouldn't be able to go back to school to get his stuff. So he had everything, whereas some of the other kids weren't. So, I had 3 kindergartners and a couple, grade schoolers, and they were freaked out. But the weird thing was the way she was describing the staff at her office was very much like the staff at this school. They were like, and all just like, chaos. And I think that they weren't told ahead of time. If they were, it was like 2 hours before. Whereas I believe, the principal or whoever, was, at the top, as it were, of that particular school, was well aware of what was going on. And the chaos was
That's part of it.
of the thing, right? It was to create that chaos in order to freak people out and get them off their game and questioning things, questioning things.
And when you're in the corporate world, like in the corporate sector, and they do this a lot in like TV shows and in movies, they always have the person who runs HR, like the HR manager. They always have this person, presented as somebody really frazzled and really, really unstable. And, she probably has or he has, dumb toys on their desk or something. Like somebody who is not quite, they're like an order follower, and they like things very, orderly and stable. So I can easily see how, these kind of people are put in place on purpose so that when, so that when your government and the various corporations
and the military
take over your life and fuck with you, they have these people in place to create the chaos.
Except in Dilbert, where it's an evil cat,
right? But they have, so I feel like what she's experiencing when she's talking about how the HR person was like kind of freaked out, like it's supposed to be that way. A lot of people are under this illusion that, corporations are really streamlined and they've got it all covered, and they know they're 25 steps ahead of us, and and they're not. They're really disorganized, really chaotic.
It always killed me when politicians would say, business leaders would say, business can run government better than government does because business knows how to run things. And it's like, what planet are you from? Because from what I know, working in your business, in your corporations, it's a fuck fest.
It's a shit show.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
you have all these like egos.
Exactly.
You can't seem to hold on to a middle manager to save your life. Like if you're working in certain environments, there's a big turnover of middle management. The workers are always more intelligent and know how to get shit done better than your department heads or your project managers or your managers do. That's why when she piped up and said, in this Zoom call, which, hey, look, we're all about pandemic preparedness. We're all about, we are the go-to people. We are the leading company that's going to open up, society again. Why don't we do what Texas is doing or what Florida is doing or even Romania, at which point, the obvious military faction of this corporation was like, we will have no revolutionary talk, so that should give you pause for a thought. When people say that in your business. That means it's no longer, you're no longer living in a capitalist situation. You're living in a military / corporate / government coup. That's and that's what she is describing is what a coup feels like.
I'm going to go back to what you were saying before. It's like the workers or the office workers, the people who are part of the bureaucracy know what's going on, and I think that's the same thing in government. Whereas you have the bureaucrats, they're the ones that are the glue that hold things together when you have a regime change from one administration to another. It's the office workers and the people who run things who understand, they have the what do you call it, I can't think of the word right now, but like, the knowledge of the organization.
Oh, okay.
There's a term for that, and it's not coming to
like
me.
The inside scoop. Right?
Well, yeah, but it's like, I can't remember the word, but anyway,
okay.
It's okay. But so they carry on,
like the history.
No, when you call it, it's a word for organization, like an organization. Anyway,
okay,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they understand, that the filing system is done a certain way, and that we do things a certain way. All these the way we hire, the way we
the way the office
procurement, all those things. We understand that, and the administration relies on that. Same thing goes with businesses. When you have a CEO leave, or when you have different managers leave, it's the people underneath them that keep the wheels running. So, okay, well, let's continue. Yeah, let's continue on.
It gets juicy.
Suddenly, people were, practically running around the office in a hurry and acting stressed out, like our HR / admin manager in our office. This was our office in Bellevue, Washington. She's just having anxiety or panic, acting kind of panicked, and trying to get people out and, get them whatever they needed to continue working at home. So it was just suddenly everybody's like rushing around going, this is weird, smiling and trying to keep a happy face, and at the same time being like, what the hell's going on? And that was not my first rodeo working for an insurance company. I worked for State Farm Insurance in the homeowners, personal property claims department for 6 years before I had moved up to Washington State. And, so I'm familiar with some of the weird inner workings or operations of insurance companies. I hadn't been on the financial policy formation or policy writing side of it when I was at State Farm. I was more on the delivering the promise, delivering the coverage and the services promised side of it previously. But now I feel like I've had a bit of a glimpse into a whole different beast. I remember earlier this year, I talked to a few friends about this idea that I had about potentially blowing the whistle on FM. And, I just laid it out similarly to them, but I did that in writing. And I was just like, I don't know, do you think Project Veritas would be interested in this, or any other independent journalists or researchers would be interested in this? And I started dropping some information on some Alison McDowell posts, and I tried messaging her, and that didn't go anywhere. She never responded to me, and she never responded. I don't think she responded to any of my comments on some of her posts where I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this? With all your maps that you do, following the money, connecting the dots and the big players, I think we should see this one show up quite a bit. I feel like this needs to be looked into, and this company, I didn't feel like I could save stuff really from the company. Not that I had any concrete stuff to save, in my opinion. Just knowing what the company is doing and how it's operating. And I try to be thoughtful with the stuff that I say, and I wanted to make sense of this whole thing, but none of it was adding up, and I was just, all penned up working from home and trying to use my analytical skills to understand what was going on with the whole pandemic BS for months and months, and things were not adding up. I thought I worked for a smart company. I thought it was the most intelligent company that I'd ever worked for. And then it just didn't jive what was going on with the science and all the policies and what the company was pushing for. So yeah, I had to speak up. I had to talk to people. I had to ask questions. I had to ask my friends, who are researchers and journalists, what do you think? What do you think about this situation? Is this something I could blow the whistle, or is this something that could be investigated further? I'm sure there are people out there with much better investigative skills than me. I didn't look into this company enough, I guess, before going to work for them. I just thought, oh boy, a bunch of nerdy engineers, and insurance is something I have experience with, and I like to nerd out. I like to learn. I like to be accurate and precise. So I figured I would do well at this company. And there's all this other stuff I could write about and talk about with the corporate culture that was very toxic there. Just for example, there were married men at the company who were hitting on me. There were older women at the company who were clearly motivated by something along the lines of likely jealousy, according to a manager.
Just really bad. Like, you know what mobbing is? Mobbing is an illegal workplace thing that happens when a group of people at a company try to basically make a hostile work environment for someone else at the company. And that happened to me. I mean, I probably have grounds to sue the company. I don't know, because there were a couple of instances, at least, where I felt like I was being stalked and or targeted for mobbing practices in the workplace. And I actually had someone at the company come to me and tell me, because I made friends with them, they told me that this mobbing shit was going on, and that someone in my department was, in fact, telling other people in our department or in our company, all of the above, that they wanted to make me quit. And they were trying to recruit other people in the company to help them with their endeavor to get me to quit. So it's just really shady. And what's more shady is that the company allows that stuff to happen, because the person who basically initiated this mobbing stuff against me is a longtime employee, has been at the company for like over 30 years and hobnobs with the higher ups and stuff. So I guess they're allowed to do all kinds of weird petty stuff. And another person who was in my department was basically making unreasonable requests of me and kind of stalking me around the office, is what it seemed like. And that made me very nervous, very uncomfortable. And I actually reported that as well. And I don't think they did anything about it, but that was also a pretty awkward / sometimes hostile thing, where that person tried to throw me under the bus at least a couple times too. My friend in the IT division said to me that there was some corruption between some departments in the company, or at least one manager of one of the departments was trying to steal basically the budget from another department. And it just sounded like there was really, what's that called? Misappropriation of funds. I don't know exactly the technical term for that. I don't know if it was straight up embezzlement, but also the IT person had told me that they were asked to help with a local police sting investigation or operation against a brothel, that a high-end brothel discovered in Bellevue. The IT person had also told me about some instances of other examples of bullying and toxic corporate culture going on at the company, as well as what sounded like, gifts, illegal gifts and bribery to clients, entertaining clients with lavish, luxurious things. I think that strip clubs and alcohol and expensive meals and entertainment were the examples that they were giving me. It was shocking to hear these things, and the IT person seemed super nervous, very, very anxious, nervous person. I remember them shaking a lot. And I don't know everything that they know, but I have a feeling there's so much more behind that.
Is that it?
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that she had said something about Epstein.
Yeah, I think that you might be mixing that up with another story that you had heard recently. Because I didn't remember hearing that either. But there was that whole brothel thing, so that might have been what you were thinking.
Yeah, so I feel like, it's probably my intuition, or the fact that I have talked to somebody else, but I think that Epstein Inc., the brand that is Jeffrey Epstein, is everywhere. I mean, this person is, not in a very high position at FM Global, and has, discovered something strange having to do with a strip club in Bellevue, and we're talking Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I feel like there's yet another thing that caused this weird Great Reset. If you noticed, it was quite soon after his alleged arrest and alleged death and I think if you believe that he's dead, then you're
missing something.
You're missing something. He's not dead.
He didn't kill himself either.
Yeah. It's funny how, this whole thing took place with him. And of course, I am not the expert at this. There are other researchers and broadcasters out there.
I kind of don't care again.
We kind of don't care. We're looking at something again that Joe Perry had brought up to us before, which is, the semiotics, the symbolism, the timing of things. The timing of things is really relevant. So we had him, arrested and then dead. And then all of a sudden, not long after, we had this great human reset, the Great Reset, the great financial economic reset, where war was waged on all of us. And it almost feels like, the trafficking aspect of his nefarious dealings had been somewhat interrupted with the Great Reset, and that they were resetting how they make money. So rather than making it underground through trafficking human beings in an underground way, they're like, we can just do this out in the open now. We can just do it through, your digital footprint. We can just traffic everybody now. Like everybody's trafficked, like out in the open. Like we are all being trafficked right now because we're all being financialized. So the Jeffrey Epstein story feels really, it feels like like it's a link to the Great Reset somehow, maybe existentially, philosophically, economically, whatever. It's like, all of this was done sort of underground, behind the scenes, but in really obvious ways and in really overt ways, as our friend just talked about, as she had just said, that there was. I'm not saying that he's involved in the brothel, but it has like
that kind of feel to it. Those
the
fingerprints.
Jeffrey Epstein fingerprints all over it. It's pervasive. This exploitation industrial complex.
Well, and it comes back to something we were saying maybe on one of our audios. Where we may have said it here on this platform, that. It feels like, not only are there different factions that are fighting each other, but there are other spheres, let's say, that are taking advantage of the different actions that are taking place. So you've got the Fauci sphere, and I feel like they were the ones that sort of like kicked this thing off. But there was also the central banks and their initiative to reset. Basically, money and monetary actions and transactions and things of that nature, and you've got the sort of the World Economic Forum, like Julie said, they're not pulling the strings. They're the marketing campaign.
They're the idea men.
They're the marketing agency,
right?
And
they're the talent.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel like they're the ones that are like they've got the true mask on, right? And they're pushing a lot of initiatives, and pushing the marketing campaigns out there, but they're not the ones pulling the strings. And we early on, I mean, we were feeling like they were responsible for a lot of this stuff, and we definitely changed our minds, I think. On
yeah, they're not. They're and I don't think we fully like jumped in with the idea that, hey, look, if you just take down the World Economic Forum, everything will be okay.
Well, no.
That's not where we were.
Well, I felt like there were a lot of different levels.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like they're the idea men.
Yeah.
In fact, even when it comes down to like people who say what
Nothing.
When it comes down to people who say like, this particular governor of this particular state has passed, a vaccine passport, mandate or something along those lines. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just looking for something.
Like, trying to talk. Can they see everything
No.
you're doing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that they're like passing mandates, it doesn't matter because your governor doesn't have that kind of, the World Economic Forum, your governor, like they're just fluff. They're like in front of you. The people that are really ruining your life and really fucking with you are places like FM Global, places that have, lots of power. They have, military personnel now coming in, acting like, consultants. It's weird. They just changed out their military uniform for like a hoodie.
or
like this,
or a button down in khakis, right?
Button down in khakis,
right.
Whatever. It's like they're still waging war, right? So
so we need you to stay after the hours, and
it'd be a shame if you didn't work that unpaid overtime. So, but anyway, the point is that I think that the real issue is the institutions and the corporations and the businesses and whether they are a chain restaurant or like a more nefarious corporation like FM Global that has like she I don't know if you go back and listen to her, but she said our clients couldn't even upgrade their building without having to go through FM Global to get it approved.
Right.
That's what the insurance game is all about. It's about financializing your ideas and financializing it's like, I think I want to put an extra wing into my office, or I want to, build an extra floor, or I want to do a different build out. I want to do a different design. You can't just do it. You have to go through your policy holder, and get the approval, and then they've got to do a workup, like a financial workup to see how much this is going to cost and what your insurance rates will change to, and it's so much more complicated than even that. These people couldn't do anything, like their clients couldn't do anything without going through them first. So it's very mob-like.
Yeah, and you can go to the Wikipedia entry. I know, Wikipedia, but in this case,
at least it talks about their history.
Right, it talks about their history. So they started out as a mutual company, a mutual insurance company of different factory owners, and what they were trying to do was reduce the cost of their insurance if they took certain steps to make their factory more resilient and safer. So they were less likely to catch on fire or whatever the case may be. And this goes back to the mid 19th century. So you can read about that. But that is sort of like why presently they're able to get away with telling a company, well, we won't insure you if you use these certain building materials or if you do this or you do that. So it's sort of in their legacy that allows them to say those kinds of things to these companies, because these companies have chosen to insure with this corporation. So
right.
There's something to that, but I also believe that they have like overreached, and they're like you said, gotten into and they have been. We sort of feel like they've been taken over by the military.
Yeah, they have been, and so this is. I think that this goes back to my original thought, all the way back in March or April of 2020, well over a year ago, where I did that little Let's tutorial video that hardly has any views. And I talked about the merging of the military and the government and corporations.
Yeah.
but it's way.
Right, it's right here.
Oh, is that it?
Let's tutorial the
Oh,
numbers.
Let's tutorial. Nope, that's the numbers. That's a different one.
That's a different one.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's tutorial the numbers is a different one.
Okay.
It was this really cool idea that I saw trending on social media where people were putting in the numbers of cases, and it doesn't matter what number you would put into like your Google search or any of your search criteria. You could put, 10,386 cases, and you would get a hit. You would get some kind of mainstream or media hit, some kind of media hit, which would come up with that exact number. And I was trying to show you in the video I did called Let's Tutorial the Numbers.
I put that into the
Well, so this is Let's Tutorial. This is about the combination of the businesses the corporations and the government working together, and how the strategic intelligence platform shows you this through their little Corona ball, right?
Right.
Remember that? That, you guys? Everybody was talking about it at one point. Well, this other one that I did called Let's Tutorial the Numbers, I wanted to prove to you that we're being run by AI. We're already being run by AI. I could have told you we were being run by AI in like 2010. So it doesn't matter what combination of number that you put into your into Google or Quant or what's the other one, DuckDuckGo, that everybody uses. It doesn't matter. They're going to come up with that specific number, and they're going to find you're going to get a hit for an article that talked about that specific number of like COVID cases or Corona cases or something. So
well, I
put
those,
number at all.
I put those links into the chat, so you can find those there.
So you can find them in the chat. We are at the 90-minute mark, so I think we're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you good?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Good too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's cocktail time here at the Book of Hours studio. So go ahead. If you missed anything, go back to the show and make yourself a cocktail and watch it. And if you want to hear the audio again, just go back and listen to it again on this show.
Mm-hmm.
We won't be posting it anywhere right now. We're thinking about creating a video for it.
Yeah, we were thinking of doing a video sketchbook for it. So many different things going on that need our attention. Yeah. So what's been happening is, and I put this in a recent newsletter email that I sent out to everybody who is on our list. And if you want to get on our list, just go to our website and shoot us an email or shoot
info@book-of-hours.com
in the chat if you want. So anyway, I said, that we had set the intention that, we wanted to be there for people. We feel that there are a lot of stories out there, a lot of really interesting stories, tragic stories where people aren't getting the attention that they deserve. And this individual followed up, and boy, was it a doozy. I mean, that's a lot of really good information.
Yeah.
She worked there. She was sort of at ground zero. And, and there's something to be said about somebody who worked in the insurance sector and in the corporate sector prior to the national emergency, and then stayed after. And so you can see the different attitudes, the different policy, the different, the way management manages, from before and then after, and how that transition is so stark. Like you can really see that there's a difference there. That's why so many people that we noticed in the retail sector were no longer working at our local grocery store. We would go we moved here in 2018, and we would go to a grocery store and we'd see regular people, and then at the end of 2019, about October, November, December of 2019, suddenly they were gone and replaced with different faces. And that means, and that's why they were so wanting to go after her, because they really wanted people who had been in their positions prior to March 13th of 2020. They really wanted those people gone, because they knew that those people would be like, wait a minute, this isn't company policy. what you're doing is antithetical to your own practices. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? That's why they went after her so hard, our whistleblower. So Sherry, thank you for joining. I know it's late. Go back and watch. We have a whistleblower that we recorded, and we're going to play. We played her her audio, so it's really important to see that. But you know, so you can see that, and so that's why, because she was like, you know, they were going after me. Someone even said that they had hired people to try to get me to quit. And, you know, and this goes along the same lines with what we saw in other businesses where people were suddenly no longer in their positions in around October or November of 2019.
We noticed that with the bus drivers locally,
and even the
too.
bus
Yeah.
drivers,
Yeah.
the bus drivers all changed, you know? So it was every level. It was from the high, you know, corporate level down to, you know, the working class, down to the cashiers, the bus drivers. You know, we witnessed it and we were like, okay, something's going on, you know?
Yeah, it was weird.
And this was back in October and November of 2019 that even I had said, this is really odd. And then, of course, the toilet paper left the shelves. And I was like, there's something going on. This isn't what, like, this is weird. Like, staff changes. Now the toilet paper is gone. And then the glass went up. Remember when the glass went up in the various shops that we would go to? And we were like, what the fuck? They put but that was
plastic. But that was post-corona. We knew what was going on then.
We knew what was going on, but we're like, this is a little outrageous.
But we noticed that the personnel changes were happening before COVID. So
this is all prison stuff too, by the way.
Right.
This is absolutely the model of how life is like in the prison system. You have to, when you leave, not that I would know, but when you leave the prison system, or when you enter into it, your stuff, your transactions, even when you're in the prison system, are behind a plexiglass. So like if you say, you know, you get money, say you get like you know, $100 a month from like a family member, so that you can buy on the inside, you can buy like tampons or socks or whatever. You have to go to a commissary, kind of like in the military. You have to go to a commissary and say, okay, I want to buy these things. And all that stuff is behind glass. Like everything about this experience has been about you becoming a prisoner and being financialized. Every little thing, you know, in prison, they make you sit, you know, a meter apart from each other. This is a hostage situation that we were and still kind of are in. We're all being held hostage.
Yeah.
You get that? Like, you understand that. Like, I hope people really understand that there's nothing health related about this at all. They're like, how are we going to indoctrinate a prison system into a free society? I don't know. How could we possibly do it? I know. Let's tell everybody they have cooties. You know, and that's how you indoctrinate people into behaving like prisoners. So let's see, what are you looking for now?
Well, I'm going to put up 13 Amended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 13 Amended is our latest public video essay that we did. It's an hour long, and it talks about how about what I just said.
Yeah, just what she's talking about.
This is nothing more than an inversion of your life, you know, being held hostage and turned into a prisoner. You know, and this is something that I said, you know, even before we did our first video essay. Like, we were working on Quarantyranny and we used prison footage. Quarantyranny came out, it was the very first video essay we did, and it came out
in the age of COVID.
And it came out like
April 2020,
like 3 weeks after the national emergency was declared. And we used prison footage. Like, this is it. Masking, plexiglass, like sitting far apart from each other. And we're teaching children that it's normal to feel like a prisoner, that that's a normal thing, that childhood is now this, you know, tightly controlled thing. And that it's normal to, you know, be suffocated. It's normal to be bound. You know, if you let this thing get out of hand, a lot of people are, you know, concerned about the vaccine as well as I am concerned about the medical intervention that you don't need. But what's to stop, the idea of your hands and feet being bound as well as your mouth from being normalized as well? Like, how far are they going to take it? They've gotten away with so much. Why would they stop now? How do you know that they're not going to, normalize the idea of shackling, an individual to like a bar or something and be like, oh no, it's for your safety. It's for your safety. That's what they do, right? You know that when you get arrested, before you like go to the big house or whatever, they got to put you in a holding cell and they shackle your wrist to a bar. You know that, right? It's a form of torture. And you're there for sometimes up to 12 hours, until they figure out what they're going to do with you next. How do you know that they're not going to go there after they put the mask on your face? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Not you guys watching.
The general public.
But the general population.
Yeah.
Like, this has gone too far. This is a prison indoctrination. This is why the military is involved.
Yeah.
This is why the military took over.
Okay.
So on that note,
we are still looking for people to help us out by becoming subscribers on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Book of Hours. You can also go to Rokfin and become a member through rokfin.com/Book of Hours. I posted a link to Rokfin for the 13 Amended. That's a free video, but we do have a lot of content that is also premium content that you can only see if you're a member of Rokfin or if you're a member of Patreon. So please consider becoming a patron or supporting us on Rokfin.
Right.
On Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, on the 29th, we are featuring Dr. Christiane Northrup. And that will be at, I believe, 11 a.m., 10 or 11 a.m. Look at the website, the Facebook page.
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And so, we'll put out a promo for that probably Sunday or Monday. And check it out. It'll be free during the streaming, but it will be premium after that. So, again, if you want to see it after the streaming, you'll have to become a member of Rokfin or a patron. So please, you can join us Patreon for as little as $2 a month, and Rokfin is $9.99 a month, but you get to see everybody's premium content on Rokfin. And I think that's wraps up our
so
bookmark.
We will see you back here on Wednesday when we talk to Dr. Christiane Northrup. If you have questions, get them ready. And we are going to sign off now. Thank you so much for joining today. It was a really fun episode today.
Yeah.
And I want to thank our whistleblower for coming forward
Absolutely.
and sharing her story. That was amazing.
Thank you for everyone who has been commenting in the chats. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.